Hi, friends. Host Eric here, host Talking with Famous People. And I'm not thrilled with the lighting right now, but presumably it'll get more successfully lit as the evening gets darker. So, welcome to Typology Q A live stream with your host Eric, whose intense fervor on answering all of your questions, whatever they may be, cannot be contained any longer. Hi, Joey, Joe, Shabadoo. How are you? Hello, Gilded Garden. Gilt, G-I-L-T, is what your garden is gilded with, I've decided. Regless, taking type 2 distress, huh? Taking type 2 distress. I'm on the patio of my parents' house. The inside is right here. This is inside the house. And I'm actually outside, like, this is the door right here. The sliding glass door. I've got everything super carefully positioned so you can't see the door or the camera's where it's supposed to be at. I also, for a change, have the TV in such a location where if I'm looking right at myself, I'm more or less looking at the camera. Better than usual, anyway. Streets. Yeah, I'm taking type to the streets. That's true. I am. I'm taking it to the streets because I'm trying to get it a job as a street sweeper. And I want it to become familiarized with its primary area of work, the streets. So, anyway, this is a time of day when typically if I put up a live stream that asks people to talk typology with me, that I'll gradually gather a group of people who are engaging me on the topic. But, it really depends, I guess, on people's mood, the day, the time, their most recent experience from a previous live stream they decided they were bored by or something. I noticed that I'm like that with Kimberly, that when we go to dinner someplace, all I have to have is like one thing I don't really like about an experience at a restaurant. Even if we had gone there frequently, we'll stop going there for a while. You think I am fibbing. I'm not fibbing. I'm telling the truth with a PH. Joey, Joe Shabadoo, I'm real glad to hear that you're real good. Planet Catch Up, hello. How are you today? Aloha, in case you're not aware, viewing audience of 5. I want to make you aware of this important reality. Aloha means hello and goodbye in Hawaiian. It's true. The pH level. What's the pH level of the guilt? You don't think I was being truthful about the street cleaner job? Well, metaphorically, I was being truthful. I was telling you the truth with a pH. It's a little different. It's a metaphorical truth. That's why it's got a pH in it. You know what I often wonder? You said aloha. Is that different? Is that like aloha mixed with a karate chop? What is the antagonism that partygoers have towards roofs? With their continual attempts to raise them, tear them off, rain them down upon the dancing people below. Why is it that something about partygoing causes this aggression towards roofs? Nobody says tear the bathroom faucets off the motherfucker, and I'm not sure why. That would seem even more party-like because it would cause water to squirt out like a fountain of enthusiastic engagement in a social environment. That's what it would represent. Remember, the only things that really matter in life are things that represent other things. Okay, so it doesn't matter that you destroyed the building as long as it represented a good party. That's all of it. What do you really take away from it? Well, just the meanings that you choose to make. And so, you got to set yourself up to make good meanings. You got to prepare yourself that anytime you're going to have a party, your roof may be torn off. Now that I've introduced the concept, your bathroom faucets may additionally be torn off. Oh, I see. Roofs are constraining the upward momentum of the party. But why is it necessarily preferable for a party's momentum to go up? Why not east or west or north or south or down or diagonal or in a star-shaped pattern, Roofs are simply magic carpets waiting to happen. But first you have to tear them off, the motherfucker. I see. Well, leave my roof alone, party goers. If you were to successfully tear it off, what would keep the rain from falling down upon my head? Nothing. So, I'm here at my parents' house for another day or so. I got my mom all set up with some activities and shit in back in her room. Told her to. I got the sheets and stuff. So she'll probably just kind of attempt to start making the bed just out of, I don't know, just momness, and then that'll keep her occupied for a while. And she's back in the part of the house where she can't really get in any kind of trouble. So I set myself up to be able to converse on the internet for a while. I was thinking today about you have roof seeds you plant for sustainable partying. Oh, well, see, I don't like those just uniform fields of farmed roofs. I like my roof to be natural. Regardless, because they use GMO, they do, in those roof farms. Those are genetically modified roofs. They're no longer made out of hooves. That's why they're called roofs, by the way. It's because they're made out of horse hooves. They're not vegetarian. Roofs aren't. They're not vegan either. They're that's why they stink in the hot sun. Yeah. Hey, teacher, leave my roof alone. Hey, it's Sheila W. How are you? I'm Fat Albert, and you're Sheila W. We're talking about roofs. I prefer to party in calming concentric circles. Push the foundation into a sunken living room. That sounds like a party full of Quaaludes to me. Not much of a party, really. The old rule stands still to this day. Whatever you do, don't drive on Quaaludes. Guaranteed to crash your car. Hi, Kimmy. I just started live streaming about 8 minutes ago. Or are you going to come over or no? Oh, you're not? Okay, that's fine. All right, cool. I'll call you later then. All right, bye. So that was Kimberly there on the phone. Sunken living rooms. I had a friend when I was a kid named Kelly Reardon who lived up in Upper Arcadia, and she had a sunken living room, and it was kind of neato. There's a little thing to jump off of to get down into the sunken part. Conversation pits. That's really what a sunken living room is. It's a conversation pit. It's a cocktail party pit for people who still drink cocktails anymore. Where did I put my iced tea? There it is. Let me grab my iced tea. So I want to make a programming announcement here. A lot of people have asked me about it since I sort of referenced it in a couple previous videos. Am I going to have a debate with DSP, quote unquote? Well, it's not really a debate, but I am going to have a interview with Benjamin interviewing, and me and DSP is the two guests. And he's given a bit of a, outline of topics to cover, which include what makes a system more or less reliable and yada, yada, yada. So that conversation will happen, but I had the date wrong. It's not today, Thursday. It's not next Thursday either. It's Thursday, May 2nd. Now, this was DSP who suggested the date, and I confirmed it. I guess I just saw Thursday and assumed it was this upcoming Thursday because who would schedule something that far in advance? But when I looked at the email again, I realized I'd replied by saying, I hereby confirm Thursday, May 2nd, whatever time, you know. So I guess I just escaped my mind that Thursday, May 2nd was not today. Anyhow, oh, Gilded Garden. Is that true? Maybe it is. Maybe. So I'm kind of interested in that. You know, when I got the email and said, yeah, of course I'll do that. That's fun. I didn't really think much of it, but I'm happy that there's been a certain amount of anticipation amongst people for the conversation. Although everybody seems to think I'm gonna yell at him or something, which I don't plan to yell at him. Don't be bullied, Matthew Alistair. As if. The correct thing to say is, don't be a bully, Eric. Then I'd say, yeah, I'm not going to. I'm going to be as pleasant as I can. Oh, sure, my epi is masculine. Dave! It is so good to see you. I am so excited to talk to you right now. Big fan. Big fan. I watch all of your videos, and I think you just you have changed my life with your wrongness. Is that masculine enough for you? I am going to be on my best behavior, young lady, Sheila W. I know that. No, I'm not going to go quadruple blast on it. Okay. Oh, I mean, you mean, am I going to be my quadruple blast subtype? No. Oh, don't blow it into the house. Blow it out this way. May the 2nd be with you on your birthday, okay?
Okay. So.
It's going on Benjamin's. I'm assuming he's the one setting it up. He's the one who asked for the interviews. So, yeah, totes my goats. Makes me, in general, I want to interview people more. I'm trying to get Nathan to interview him, but you know, my strategy of scheduling an interview is, hey, can I interview you right now? And then if they don't respond in 5 minutes, I change on to something else. And then maybe another couple of days, and I go, hey, how about now? It's not a very efficient way of getting guests for your interviewing purposes. I like interviewing people, though. It's fun.
Now it's nice and warm and comfy here. We haven't seen anything like that for this other part at all. Everything just, it's...
May is my absolute least favorite month. It goes, best months go February, July, November, April, June, September. Did I say that one already? Who has a list of favorite months, Sheila? Really? Favorite months? I guess if you live in a place where there's a big climate thing, right? I mean, obviously, climate-wise, my favorite months around here, not like right now, like, you know, April, March, April, it's pretty nice. It's starting to get hot, you know. But I assume that a month is good or bad on things not related to the weather, you know.
Yeah, it does.
And that there's no like, usually I've got good Januaries and I've got kind of iffy Julys.
Each one of them, they have little yellow things they can have in there, and they can do things, and then they're happy.
Well, Minnesota, I believe, Sheila, is the land of a billion lakes or something, or is that Minnesota? I mean, is that Michigan? Minnesota's the land of a billion lakes? It's an odd name for a state. The land of a billion lakes. There are no way there's a billion lakes in Minnesota, but that's their state motto. Winnipeg. That's the land of a billion lakes?
Well, they're teeny is.
Winnipeg. Winnipeg. That sounds like just a made-up name for a city anyway. How many billion lakes do you really have? 10,000 lakes, huh? That's a long cry from a billion, Sheila. A long cry. I mean, a far cry. Winnipeg. What do you want to call the city? It's like, hey, yeah, I'm not from around here. I'm just visiting. Where are you from? Oh, it's a town called Winnipeg. Winnipeg? No, Winnipeg. Winnipeg. Really, a city called Winnipeg. Yeah, it's an old Indian word. Means going right up your poop chute.
This is good.
In, knick-knack, paddywhack Indian tribe or whatever they're called. Oh. Okay.
And here is this other one. But
I don't believe you, sir. I think you're lying. Manitoba has 110,000 lakes.
Oh.
If you're counting puddles, maybe. If you're counting puddles, okay? It's got 110,000 puddles. Like, most of the things that Manitoba calls lakes are just like, when somebody lets their hose run too long in the front yard. So take it with a grain of salt. Uh-huh. Maps, right. Yeah. Right, Chief. It's like, what would a map tell us that my mind's not going to tell us? Who's the one with all the knowledge here? It's me. Okay? Maps no expert on how many lakes there are someplace. I am. Facts. I am speaking words right now, Jeebus. That means you're getting nothing but all facts from me. Okay? That's all I speak in. I speak the only one language, the language of facts, language of objectivity. God, I'm so much more scientific than you, Jeebus. Come on. Get it together. Who here is offended by Jeebus's non-scienciness? Me. I am. See, that's not sciencey, Jeebus. You love me, buddy.
Well,
that's very non-sciencey.
It says talking and
Maps is a good guy. He knows the facts. Yes, you're welcome to call in on the show. Of course. My phone. You got my phone number there. Probably it's on the description. I think. I do take phone calls on live streams for sure. I have before. I'd be happy to again. Anyways, can type in a question as well.
Well, I hope it doesn't start.
Well, that's how we know maps are lying, Sheila. Maps are flat, but the Earth is not flat. That's why we should never trust maps about anything.
On there certain times.
Okay. How can we trust a map to tell us how many lakes there are in a given region when it can't even get the shape of the world right? Huh? Huh? No, my parents do not do bong rips with me. My dad's out of town, or I wouldn't be pulling bong rips here. I'd just wait till I got home, Swiss Superman. Hello from Switzerland, he says. Swiss Superman, do you go around and neutrally express concern when some better crimes happening or something? I'm Swiss Superman. I'm here. I've got the super strength, the speed of flying, the laser eyes, everything. But I'm neutral. So I want to express concern that this choice of yours to rob this bank may end up not being the best choice for you even, So I just want to say, as neutral Swiss Superman, hold on now. I'm getting a phone call. Somebody else wants to help me chime in with my neutrality. Hello. Hi, how are you? I am fine, thank you. Thank you for asking. That was very polite of you. You're supposed to have Q's. I'm supposed to have A's. I don't know. I guess that's a cute question. What are we supposed to be talking about is a question, I guess. Okay, what's your good question? What do I think about what? What do I think about anti-vaxxers? Okay, I will answer that question, and then if you have another question, you can call me back. Goodbye. Okay, so what do I think about anti-vaxxers? I mean, I think in general, most of them are nuts. Like, not that there's something inherently bad about being an anti-vaxxer. It really depends on what your position is and why you're anti-vaxxer. So if you're anti-vaccine because you're making some sort of principled position about autonomous decisions regarding an individual's body and or the nature of compulsory school and why it's offensive, well, then that's a pretty good justification for taking that position. If you're taking the position that you're against vaccines because they cause autism, then you're not being sensible at all, and you're not paying attention to any kind of meaningful uh, linkage. You're not judging things against a meaningful linkage criteria. You're just saying, well, just because there's a random correlation between things, there must be a causal relationship, and it's very weak reasoning. I think most anti-vaxxers are in that latter camp, probably, but I think it's reductive to say anti-vaxxers are a group of people, because anti-vax is a position of advocacy that says either one that says people ought not be compelled to vaccinate, or one that says I don't want to vaccinate my kid. Now, I'm anti-vax in the sense that I don't think people in general should be compelled to vaccinate, but I do want to vaccinate my kid because I believe that that's for the good of the child. Now, if you're going to make an argument that says people should be compelled to vaccinate their children, then the best argument would be people are fundamentally regents for their children's autonomy, which will manifest at their age of maturity or age of consent is like 18, right? So they've got a responsibility to protect that autonomous being. They have a responsibility to protect the child's autonomy. So, it's not okay to make life-changing decisions for the child before the child has any capacity to make decisions for themselves just because you think that's better or whatever. And it's potentially very risky for the child to not be vaccinated. So in that sense, I would say there's a good reason to think that everybody ought to vaccinate their kids. But I don't think the government should force everybody to do so. And I don't think this compulsory school workaround shit is ought to fly. It's like, if your burden is that high to not vaccinate your kid, that you have to deviate so entirely from the social norms to exist in society unvaccinated, then they're functionally forcing everybody to vaccinate. So, I mean, I don't think that should happen. Now, people will make the argument that it's perfectly reasonable to require people to vaccinate their kids before the kids are allowed in school, because otherwise those parents are forcing the parents of unvaccinated kids forcing the parents of vaccinated kids to put their kids at risk. Except if, in fact, the vaccines are effective enough to warrant compulsive use, then, of course, the people who vaccinate their kids don't have anything to worry about because their kids are vaccinated. So they are putting chips in our children, both tortilla and potato. It's that snack food industry. Thank God they are. Otherwise, what would keep their little hands and mouths busy? I couldn't vaccinate a dog of mine. She almost died the first time she received the vaccine. Oh, well, I mean, some dogs and people too, I guess, are allergic to vaccines and or whatever. Evelyn says it also depends on the vaccine. Sure. I mean, that's the thing. We talk about it as a general position or an advocacy issue about, whether one ought to be in favor of or against vaccines. But in reality, probably the very best position on it would be to evaluate each of the vaccines independently and determine whether or not there's any actual any reason that could be concerned. I mean, I think if people understood the mechanism by which vaccines prevent diseases from being acquired later in life, if they understood it intuitively, like they understand how moving a stump from in front of something will give you better access to it. You know, like that's something everybody understands intuitively, right? All right, let me go back and answer some of these questions here that are being written in the Chizat. Yes, Kimberly, I do remember you wrote this question last month, and in fact, I made a video about it. But it's still an interesting question and a good one to revisit. I don't mind revisiting it at all. I tend to do any topic better after I've done it a few times because it's practice, you know. Denise Simone, or is that Simon, asks, at what age do you think you can accurately try to type a child? Very, very young. I can type them pretty accurately. I mean, by fifth, well, okay, like fifth graders, I'm quite confident in my typing of them. I can type them with a high degree of certainty, almost the same as adults, basically. Littler than that, it gets a little tricky. You can tell dominant function as early as first or second grade pretty definitively, maybe even earlier than that. So, I mean, I am convinced that type is determined at a very young age, if not by birth. It may be you come out of the womb endowed with a specific dominant function already. Delilah, my daughter, was, you know, she had the same personality to some extent, in some way. I believe it to be the case. It's hard to establish definitively in any meaningful sense, but I believe she had the same personality when she was an infant that she does now at 20 years old. It's evolved and developed as she's gained more experience and grown and aged and stuff, but it's fundamentally the same girl, you know. She had that same energy and vibe about her when she was a baby that she does now. So Gilden Gardens says, they don't even show you where the sea monsters are anymore. They're in your own heart. They've been there the whole time, Gilded Garden. You just have to look inward with your imagination. I don't think the government should make it. I don't either. Chips and children, yes, saw that. I couldn't receive them yet. Let's see. It also depends on the vaccine. Is Alex Jones an ENFJ? Quite possibly. Quite possibly. I mean, it would take fourth or seventh slot TI to get you down the path he went down to begin with. Even if it does turn out to be simply an expression of found a niche and ran with it, which is what I think it ultimately is. But the reason he found that niche and ran with it is because he's an ENFJ and he knows how to pitch shit on a social level that works for people who don't use TI well. I can't get flu shots because it causes asthma attacks. That's funny. I can't get asthma shots because it causes flu.
It's funny. It makes you look entirely different.
Simone is prettier. Eric, I'm back. I'm glad, Jeebus. Thank God. But we're all like, the whole time you were gone, we were like, where the fuck is Jeebus gone? Sheila W., having a hard time figuring out my daughter. She reminds me so much of me. Well, I mean, she may be. My daughter, I believe, to be my own type. I'm quite convinced of it, but, you know, a lot of people disagree. Can't change types. No. But you can type the word change. Tommy Robinson, everybody go out and get your flea shots. That's good advice, Tommy. I don't want to have fleas this year. I'm going to get my flea shots, my lice shots, my scabies shots, and my fetid squalor shots. Okay. I've been sure my 8-year-old is an NT for quite some time, but I'm still not sure which one. Okay, well, it should be pretty easy to distinguish between the NTPs and the NTJs. If you can narrow it down to one of those two, then that one's going to be a little bit more challenging. That's like the most challenging thing to do. To differentiate between INTP, ENTP, to differentiate, I mean, that one's especially difficult, I think. INTP, ENTP can be especially difficult. But also ISFJ, ESFJ can be very difficult. I would say INFP, ENFP can be difficult. But ESFP, ISFP is not that difficult because it's the polar and he's easy to spot. Oh yeah, don't forget your cootie shots, of course. If you haven't gotten cootie shots yet, then what are you waiting for? I don't know if you're aware, but half of the population of the world can give you cooties, and and maybe even more than half, because it's not exactly 50-50 women and men. Plus, you probably get cooties from transgender people as well, unless you're transgender. You know, that's probably like they have their own cooties system, I would guess. Is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez ENFP? Probably an ENFP or an ESFP for sure. Probably ENFP, but she's got a certain snarly snappiness to her that makes me think she might be an ESFP. She needs to be put in her fucking place. Tell you that, and I will be glad to do so when I get the opportunity. I'm gonna fucking school the living fuck out of her.
A lot of things you could do afterwards, and it'd be great.
All right, cool. Thank you, Mom. What would you type, Batman? Well, you'd have to say Batman is kind of ISTJ-ish. He's stuck in the past about his parents' death, and his need to let his protectors drive his boat for him, you know. And so he's got all these little tools and gadgets. He might be ISTP, I guess, but I think he's ISTJ. Otherwise, he wouldn't be stuck in the past. Did you know that bong rips are a leading cause of bad breath? No, I didn't know that. I heard that reading Jeebus's comments was. Sheila W. She drives me insane. She drives me wild, and I just can't ride. I'm about to lose control, but I think I like it. Is that the song you sing whenever she comes on the television, Sheila? What? I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. That's a funny song. And why am I ignoring you? But I'm getting to you next. I do this thing. I do people, and I think I was gonna do you in a group, you know, like a group of Kimberly. Kimberly has cooties because of me. Well, that's possible. You can probably get away with blaming me for that one. Out of who? Out of who? What you talking about? I want to throw my show at her.
No.
Do you have a show you're gonna throw at her, or you may maybe mean your shoe? I wonder. Oh, I'm talking about A. Blah C. What's her middle name again? Oh yeah. Oh, AOC. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's this firebrand polar TI person who, and that's why we should prevent any business from using any product or any resource for the environment. You got to put your titties to bed? Oh, your littles to bed. That makes more sense. Bye. Bye to you as well. Oh, no, I mean, I don't. My dad's talked to me about her. You know, it's like, that's mainly where I know about her from. I mean, I've read certain things on Google News, and I just, as soon as I encountered her in the public sphere, I just rolled my eyes and looked the other direction. I don't even want to. She's such a waste of my attention. You know, it's just something that can get you upset for no reason, and I don't like making myself mad. Just listening to morons spew garbage for no reason. So let's see what else we have here in the question. No, it's not. It's a congresswoman from New York. Steve Stevenson says, do you know what your ancestry is, where your family came from when they immigrated to America? Yeah, Germany. On both sides. My mom's family are Brandstetters, which is a German or Dutch German kind of name, I guess. And my dad's are the Strausses. That's another German name. And my dad's family is like Church of the Brethren, which is, it's like Mennonite. or which is like Amish. So it's like 2 levels away from Amish, basically.
Yeah, they really are.
He was one of those types of people.
Yes.
Kimberly Butthole. I'm not a butthole. Why does she trigger me? Oh, well, because she's so sanctimonious about her abundant, smug, I'm like coastal supremacy shit, like I'm from New York and I'm stupid as hell and I look down on everybody between California and New York. And I know best what people a lot older and wiser and smarter than me actually know better than me about. And I'm going to pound this home. It's just ridiculous. She's just inherently offensive, especially on an FE level, right? She's FE, she's unaware of how she plays on a level that reveals a degree of smug self-certainty that is wholly undeserved. And that's what pisses you off about it. Can triggers get triggered? Tigger can be triggered.
Well, they said it.
Tigger's triggered by bouncy, trouncy, flouncy, gouncy, chouncy, whatever. Where I got married, a female gauge of all knowing. Where did you get married? In Laverne, right? A female gauge of all knowing? No. I mean, the thing is, why do triggers trigger you? Oh, I see. Okay. Well, the triggers trigger you because they say to you, this person is referencing their own emotional response to something as some sort of justification for or claim upon something. And so that's stupid, and I don't like that. Don't you think people's types can change from traumatic life events? No, I don't think their type can change from traumatic life events. I think their expression of their type may be a less optimal one because of damage, but there will still be a fundamental stack configuration that's the same, and that it's the same attentional manners in the same order that are being utilized to address something. It's just that everything's got a stick and a carrot into it. You can use extroverted intuition aggressively in some sense. I can generate a bunch of possibilities with the intent of disabling you, for example. It's like flak at an airplane. I can just shoot a bunch of shit at you to disrupt your flow and to break down your ideas and render you helpless, Or I can take a different approach, I can use potentialities to be affirmational or to build consensus things on or whatever, or to entertain, or there's lots of different ways I can utilize it. So really, to the extent that individuals are expressing damage that would cause their behavior to deviate from their type descriptions is because type descriptions are generally of healthy individuals of that type. And so obviously the damage expresses as a different a differently purposed expression of that same function. So let's say I had FE as a dominant function rather than ESFJ, but I had some sort of damage I was expressing. I might use that FE to, instead of to do the normal feedback loop that says, let's engage synergistically with FE. I'll make you feel good, so you treat me better, and then that'll make me feel better, which make me want to make you feel good even more, and we'll both do this kind of positive FE loop. If it's a damaged ESFJ, maybe it'll be like that'll manifest more as a protection approach of FE that says, instead of instead of approaching this from an angle of I'm going to utilize my positive FE to make you want more, I'm going to use negative FE to destabilize you so that you don't think you're good enough anymore, so that you feel stuck here because I'm the best you can get or something. Like you hear about the stories about like some abusive dude who convinces some lady that she's not good enough for anybody and that he's the only one who would be with her and shit like that. Like that kind of stuff. That would be an extremely abusive form of FE, really. And just because it's FE doesn't mean it cares about people in harmony and shit. It means it utilizes social perceptions and your understanding of other people's emotions to manage those people, either for good or ill. So that's where I think that it changes the expression of the person. Is if the person's constantly in a defensive mode where parts of themselves that are trying to protect themselves end up being kind of, what do they call that? It's a preemptive attack. Like, they try to preempt what they anticipate is going to be a betrayal or an attack, and so it ends up creating the opposite kind of feedback loop. And that's an example of how type expresses very differently depending on what's being expressed. And it's not even the type, it's the individual person, depending on the moment, how they're expressing their function and whether or not they're expressing an instance of some kind of protector stepping in to defend their sense of self-worth and sense of self-value, and in general themselves, from pain, suffering, and or deconstruction. That is to say, like being attacked or being criticized, being treated as somehow less than. Nobody likes that, and but of course, these things are contextually specific. It's appropriate to take this kind of frame in a significant other relationship. It's not really appropriate necessarily in all kinds of conversations and all kinds of situations. It's not some sort of guide for life. It's more a way of managing communicative events between individuals. So let's see. I'm going to scroll down now and see if there are more comments down here. Oh, Church of the Brethren. Oh, you got married at Church of the Brethren? Oh, interesting. Okay. There are few things more annoying than pretentiousness and fake convictions. I don't doubt her convictions are real, but I do doubt that they are justified by anything other than her feelings, Devin Tracy says, people from New York City don't even like her. I am from New York. We are hardworking here and don't really like people who want to give away our money to lazy people. Can any type be in a leadership position? Yes, but I think it's relevant as to what's leadership required for and in what context. It's possible for one or both individuals within a two-person relationship, like a romantic relationship, to show leadership or to fail to show leadership in that relationship. And in that instance, it's hard to say what type would be best to show that kind of leadership. It would always be particular or individuated to the two people. You only have two types to choose from, right? In that circumstance. So it's going to depend on the relationship between the two people. If you're talking about a leadership of a large group or an organization or a business or something like that, there are times you're going to struggle more with it than others, for sure. And there are types that are going to seek it a lot less. So it's plausible to imagine a type that doesn't seek leadership at all to end up in a leadership position sort of without trying, And in that instance, you'd imagine that probably Obviously, it depends on the task, but for most modern organizations of any sort, it's not, ISFPs are going to probably have a bit of a challenge leading. And I would guess INFPs may have a bit of a challenge leading, unless they're leading they're leading in the sense of leading the vision of an aesthetic group, like a ballet or some shit like that,
Oh, that's, yeah. The water transformation.
Could the childhood trauma cause them to overvalue a lower judgment perceiving function? No, I don't think so.
Oh, I'm just trying to get this.
I think what it does is well, I mean,
No, the thing is,
if anything, it just expresses as a failure to reconcile things on the unconscious stack that are difficult to reconcile because they're unconscious, and that a person who's not actively considering doing a lot of metacognition about that kind of stuff is going to mistake for functions on the conscious stack. So, for example, if you got backslot FI, you're going to mistake your own feelings for being caused by external events a lot, right? Sometimes they are, in the sense that, if a murderer runs up and kills your family member and you're sad, it's fair to say that that person caused your sadness, right? So what's clumped means I do one person's questions in a clump. So is Kimberly Eric Kimberly? Yes.
well,
What does that mean? He clumps his questions mean.
Yeah.
It means what I'm doing right now. I'm doing all your questions and skipping the people in between. That's what it means to clump my questions. Okay. Let's see if there's more Jeebus questions before we go up and clump other people. Smash that like button for Eric people. Thank you, Jeebus. I appreciate you saying so.
Boy,
and how about Lake Winnipeg in the back slot, in the sixth slot? Lake Winnipeg in the sixth slot? Ugh, that's terrible water skiing. Okay, let me go up and clump some more questions.
Okay.
Kimberly says he clumps his questions, though this is his mistress. And I don't want to lead a group. Yeah, Kimberly doesn't want to lead a group. I'm adventurous, ISFJ. You are pretty adventurous. I don't think you're the most adventurous introverted type though. But I'll get back to that question in a second. Let me go up to Sheila. Shh, don't tell the real Kimberly about this Kimberly. I know, Kimberly. Don't tell other Kimberly about you.
I know better than that.
She'll be so upset.
Yeah.
Angin's here. Oh man, I'd love to chat, but I'm drunk with some people. Well, too bad for you.
Where's the little brown?
Joey Shabadoo says she missed the invite. I missed the invite, Angin here. Well, I guess we weren't cool enough, Jojo Shabadoo, says Sheila. Seriously, says Jojo Shabadoo. Line face, just lines. I'm making pressure cooker chicken, stone cold sober, and doing big rails of blow. I'm making pressure cooker chicken, stone cold super, and doing big rails of blow. Is that your rap, Jojo Shabadoo? That's how you spend your Thursday evenings? People call you up. What you doing, Jojo Shabadoo? I'm making pressure cooker chicken, stone cold sober, and I'm doing big rails of blow. How about you, Sheila W? You want to come over to some rails? She's like, yeah, I'll be right there, baby. She drives over to Jojo's house. Jojo also lives in Minnesota. Hey, Jojo Shabadoo, it's me, Sheila W. I hear you holding, baby. And she was like, and Jojo's like, yeah, it is. Let's scissor first. And then they scissor, because that's what women do when they meet. Instead of shaking hands, they scissor briefly. When men aren't around. And then they do big rails of cocaine together. So anyway, that's the story of Joey Jojo Shabadoo and Sheila W. The scissor and cokeheads. What introverted is most adventurous? I would say ISFP probably. If you're talking about physical adventures, if you're talking about metaphysical adventures, then the INFP. If you're talking about downness to to try things and have fun. I mean, ISFJ is up there for that. How about that Lake Winnipeg? I already read that. For example, an ENFP with higher value on TE than FI. No, doesn't happen. It does not happen. There's no such shift. What are you doing at folks' place? Well, I'm caring for my mother.
They haven't said something that's actually putting what they're saying is, I said, well, I see these other stabs over here, these little things, and it says so-and-so will be there at that time. So
well, thank you, Mom. Hey, look, everybody, it's that same guy who sometimes calls himself something else. He says shit like this periodically and comes into the live stream. Whomever that might be, your view on MBTI is inaccurate and C.S. Joseph is without a doubt an ENTP. Well, Juan Garcias. Odd that you have an S at the end of your name. It's not usually a Spanish name. Are you sure aren't getting that conflated with gracias? The Spanish word gracias, maybe? Juan. Tisk. Yes, Joseph is an ENTP. Is not an ENTP. No matter how many times you and how many different names you come in as, try to tell me otherwise. There is no disputing the fact that C.S. Joseph is not an ENTP. I mean, if he is, he's the weakest, most non-NE, mediocre FE, shitty-ass tool function TI. I mean, he must be disastrously bad at his TE, at his FI, at his SE, at his NI. If he's that bad at his front four functions, and he's an ENTP, then he must be borderline retarded. I mean, that's the only thing you can say, because I feel really bad. He's the very bottom 0.00001% of ENTPs of what ENTPs are good at, you see? So that's really sad for him that he's an ENTP. Because if he is, then he's God's truly shittiest ENTP. And that's kind of sad. Okay. Right. More complex equals more reliable. Right. Gotcha. More complexity here. I tell you what, let's add some terms. Let's add a couple of random doodads here. Let's add some symbols that don't mean anything to just confuse people.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. No TI, no just vision. It's like just Jeebus nails it on the head. Juan is breaking all sorts of records in the Guinness Book of fucking retards. Exactly. Yeah. Well said. Well said, Jeebus. Very well said indeed. Rattling cages. Look at me. Look at me. I don't mind the look at me. I do a lot of look at me. Look at me. Look at me too. But when you get people to look, be doing something interesting over there. Don't just be going, okay, we see you being retarded again. If you get our attention, then make use of it, for God's sake. Say something that makes you look good, But whatever. Dinklebops. I'm sure he's gone. I think maybe we scared Juan off. He probably left to take the S off of his name. Any way to reliably test for any? Yeah, I think there are ways to test for it. I don't really have anything such thing constructed, but I think it could be tested for. But it would have to be like, you'd have to do some time shit, right? And you'd have to say, okay, look, it would have to be graded by an individual in a sense who has good NE. So like you go, okay, well, how many different reasons, different kinds of reasons can you think of that one might argue in favor of a given policy advocacy? And then you say an example, like, here's one kind of reason that people might use to make such an argument. They might point to past examples and draw conclusions from the similarity of those past examples to the current circumstance, right? And then you say, how many different reasons like that can you come up with in a minute? different kinds of reasons. We're not talking about specific reasons, right? Because that's what NE is really doing and good at, is it's able to frame up and down very effectively. So it goes to check to see, as soon as you start talking about reasons for something, then NE will place those reasons in the categories of kinds of reasons, will look up and down to see where this kind of reasoning package we're talking about fits into another setting, another frame of kinds of reasoning packages, and so forth. And so it's really, extroverted intuition, when done with TI, does that. Okay. When it's with FI, it does something similar, though, rhetorically. It still manages, it still has some sort of organizational schema for the various possibilities that it's wrestling with in whatever modality it's expressed. And it's implicit to NE, I think. So, I mean, maybe Planet Ketchup has some notions about whether she feels that her extroverted intuition works like that or in some other fashion. I'm not sure if that's NETI or just NE at the moment. So, but of course, you're going to have somebody who can distinguish between multiple instances of the same kind of reason and actually different kinds of reasons. And there's a meaningful distinction to be made, but it's kind of hard to articulate exactly what it is. So, of course, I'd have to do that, I guess, first before I could reliably be expected to automate such a thing. If you could take, this bird's chirping are stressful. It's funny, my dad has I think it's a BB gun. It's a handgun of some sort, but I'm 99% sure it's not a firearm. I think it's a BB gun or an air pistol or something like that. And he has it because he shoots at the birds.
Yep, he does.
He's got a bit of dick to him, I wouldn't do that.
I can usually figure that out.
All right, so I think any FI is exploring possibilities from a subjective perspective, such as equivocating over idealistic opportunity, like all the reasons a person should follow their dreams from an emotional place. I mean, I don't even get what that would mean exactly, but yeah, you were right, Kimberly. I was like, really? My dad? It's not a gun. Yeah, it's just a BB gun. Myers-Briggs type indicator? Painted horse? What about the Myers-Briggs type indicator? You mean the MBTI test? What about it? It's a thing. It exists. It's followed by a question mark in your comment. I don't know. I think he might have turned into a painted horse all of a sudden. It's possible. No, I don't use a Myers-Briggs type indicator. I'm discussing cognitive functions on painted horse. So anyway, yeah. Well, Juan is a lichen. Is that called a lycanthrope? Is that a werewolf? Preemptive strike. That was a word I couldn't think of earlier. No, I've never seen the movie Limitless. I don't think so. Is it that one where they crash into a wall while the lady's holding a bag of flour? If it's that movie, I've seen it. Hello, Donald J. Trump. Good to see you here. We missed you. I wanted to talk a little foreign policy with you while you were here. Get your wise input into our nation's best course of action. So what are we going to do about North Korea, Don? What's the good word? Are we going to pander to that Kim Jong-un, or are we going to give him the what for? I want to know from us if in fact that's the movie that she's talking about, the one with the bag of flour, crashed into a wall. It's about a drug called NZT, and he's kind of using introverted intuition but consciously. NEFI deliberates on what's important to them, while NETI deliberates on everything regardless of interest. Maybe, huh? I don't know. I mean, when you think about...
I know what you're thinking. I think I know.
It's like, it would seem to me that both you and I plan to catch up, differentiate between systems that we approach from a TI angle and systems we approach from some other angle. Leave that there, Mom.
Yeah, okay, well, it's just we've got all this stuff winding around here.
Right. That's why there's no reason to come over here. That's why I've got this whole thing blocked off. I've got it blocked off so that you're not coming over out here. Oh. There's no reason to. You're right there. You're right here with me. There's no reason to have to come out here with me. Okay, you can just stay right there.
Well, what is it before this happened? Way before that thing, they were over that side and everybody was getting something.
Okay, well, just relax. You can just sit down and relax for a bit because we've had dinner and, we'll go get you ready for bed and stuff before too long, okay?
I'm really ready. They're 2 or I'm 2 and all that, but...
Are you ready for bed now? Is that what you're saying?
Well, if we have some of just other things, that would be fine.
Okay. Well, why don't you head on into your room then, and I'll be in there in a bit, okay? And I'll help you if you need help, if you want it. Or just sit down right here.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So, Jesus makes a good observation that if someone had asked him 20 years ago who would be president and who would be convicted of serial raping, he would have answered wrong. Yeah, me too. Me too. So, regarding the use of NI consciously in general, and the use of NI in anybody in life, what it really boils down to, I think, is the choice of viewing things through that lens of singularity. So if you tend to do that in general, then you're going to express certain kinds of behaviors probably, because you're looking for something beyond just TE. And a good example is the story I have about my dad and his coffee maker. My dad has his old Mr. Coffee maker. It looks like it was made in probably 1976. I don't know. He's had it forever. He uses it every day. It still works great. It's a workhorse, right? And he pours. The way he makes it, though, is he puts the coffee into the filter and puts the filter into the coffee maker before he pours the water into the coffee maker. And then he puts the pot underneath it and turns on the coffee maker. So one day I was making coffee and I began by pouring the water in first. And he's like, no, son. You have to put the coffee in first before you put the water in. Now, this is a fairly sensible conclusion to draw if you don't think about it at all, really, right? Because the water you pour in you pour it in through a grid that's immediately above where the filter slides in. It's kind of a compact thing, right? And so he's of the impression that the reason the water doesn't start dripping through the coffee as soon as he puts it into the coffee thing at the top is because he does it after he puts the coffee in. And so it takes a little while for it to start dripping through the coffee. And then he puts it down and then turns it on. In reality, it starts dripping, of course, when you turn it on. It doesn't matter when you put the water in.
I didn't turn that one on for that.
I know, Mom. So that's SI and TE together versus NI and TE, right? My dad has a good logical TE explanation in his head as to why you have to put the coffee in first. Because the water is above the coffee, and if you don't put the coffee in first, then the water would start dripping immediately straight into the through with nothing to hold it back, like the coffee grounds do. And he's never in his God knows how many years of using this coffee maker tested this theory. It doesn't matter because it works the same either way, of course. So his system does work for him. And the fact that it works so consistently and it doesn't start dripping is proof enough to him that that must be the way it works. And, I tried to start explaining to him that that's not the way it works, and he did not want to hear it. Okay, so that's both TESI and in his instance also NI polar, right? But of course, when I came over here and he's not here, I make coffee by doing it the way I always do it, which is pour the water in first, and then you put the pot down, and then you do the coffee, and then you turn it on, That's how I always do it anyway. So that's my own SI, but my SI doesn't even consider the TE equation, right? It's probably exactly the same amount of effort either way. So it's not like it's a TE thing, but I'm aware of it on a TI level, Yeah, he watches me too when I make coffee. That's a precious coffee maker to my dad. He thinks that coffee maker is
in these times.
So,
we don't worry about things because when we first came, we ran over and looked at something and something else, but we don't do that anymore.
Thank God. Thank God you stopped doing that.
Well, it amazes me that they stay so good for so long.
I will also tell you about the SIFE story, which is, I think, textbook SIFE of my friend Dave Porter. Some of you may have heard it before. I've told it before, but it's the story of his chicken. He had a chicken that died, and I asked him, what do you do when the chickens die? Because he's had chickens for a while now. And he said, well, at first I would bury it, but then after a couple of them died, I got this one that died, and I said, okay, I'm not going to bury it. I made a box for it, a nice box, and I put some hay in it, and I laid it in the box of hay, and I placed the top on it, and I carried it gently to the dumpster and threw it in the dumpster. And I thought that was hilarious. Why bother with the box? All right, but that's SIFE. What matters to him is that he knows that he had the experience he had the experience of having a ceremony of sorts for the chicken, and he doesn't need to let that satisfy. This is FE tool function, right? With SI experiential knowing, and then the ability to both see that as important and worth doing, and it not being somehow inefficient and too goal diffuse for TE. So it's very un-TE thing to do, right? If you want to get the chicken into the dumpster, just carry the chicken to the dumpster. Don't put this elaborate thing about putting a box around it unless you've got some specific reason to do that. That's maybe it's going to contaminate or whatever. But even then, just wrap it in a plastic bag. You're going to the dumpster. Well, there's no TE reasoning that can explain why he would want to do that. Because TE would go, well, if you really want to show respect and care about it, then you're going to bury it as well in the ground. You're not going to just toss it in the dumpster. It takes a will you two stop calling each other nutsacks, Kimberly and Jeebus? It takes somebody who's willing to ignore that to have that make sense to them. Made sense to Dave. Doesn't really make sense to me. But to me, it's like one or the other. Either It gets tossed in the trash can or it gets buried. But that's just me. That's okay, Jeebus. She called you nutsack first, so, you know. My reasoning is you do whatever you want unless it hurts someone or fucks something up, then you change how you do it. Well, that's very trial and error-y of you, Joey Jojo Shabadoo. You sure you're not an any Dom? I think I typed you a poo, if I remember correctly. Which is not an FE Dom, it's a poo Dom. Sheila W has $10 on Kimberly. You're not the mistress, you're the wife. Right, he called you that.
Over there in the corner. Is that what you mean?
Oh, you're right. He did call us nutsacks first. Yeah, is that my coffee? You want to grab that coffee for me, Mom?
Well, there's stuff that's.
Then why don't you just have a seat? Relax.
Okay. Let's see if I can get this.
Was there any coffee in there?
A tiny bit. It would not help any of us.
Okay, you want to go refill it maybe or something? Let me see.
Okay.
Thank you. There's nothing in there.
All right. Well,
once something is dead, there's no reason to take care of the body. It's just a body. It makes little sense to care about it any longer.
Yeah, they do.
That's true, but you know, people want to afford things. The your kid is practicing bullwhipping in the hallway. You better take that shit outside, Joey Shabadoo. Okay, so once something is dead, there's no reason to take care of the body. It's just the body. It makes little sense to care about it any longer. I know, but you have attachments to the entity that used to be within the body, and so as a consequence, then do you want me to push this back so you can see it better? Is that the problem?
No. I just am amazed that he just gets in and he's already got 3 that are okay.
Yeah, 4.
There's a 4th, but
yeah. Yeah, it's out of a sense of respect for the thing that's gone or whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, I'd be more like Sheila probably. I'd be inclined to toss the dead chickens out where animals are going to eat them and stuff. I like to have a compost pile going, which I got one going now at Kimberly in my house. Going pretty good. Problem is I need to buy more worms because I'm a very indulgent chicken father, and I keep letting them like eat the worms, some of the worms from my compost pile, and then I gotta go get more worms because it starts being too worm poor of a compost pile. Get my mom in the video.
Did I do what?
There you are, Mom.
Oh yes, not terribly happy. I don't know what it was.
Well, I was thinking about putting the chicken poo in there. You know, if I can scoop it out. We don't have a lot of chicken poo. We don't have enough chickens to have a ton of chicken poo.
I'm trying to find where the places are.
When I'm reincarnated, I'll be a worm. But see, I'm actually very good to the worms as well because I bring them home to the compost pile where they have the freedom to eat as much dirt as they want. But, you know, like any worm, they run the risk of being eaten by a bird. And it just so happens that periodically I dig them up intentionally for the birds to eat them. Well, that's not anything against the worms. That's just nature's way. That's the circle of life, okay? If you don't like the circle of life, old goth nigga, then you don't like life itself because life is circular, okay? If you want a square life, go to a square dance. If you want a circular life, join us here in the real world where things are circular. And that's one to grow on. Don't get AIDS. That's also one to grow on.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Oh, hello, Mom.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
Now I have Elton John in my head. Do you?
I don't know, dear.
I ate some as a kid too. LGN. Welcome to LGN, the Lesbian Goth Network.
I'm sorry.
Sure, you can get your goth-themed content elsewhere. You can get your lesbian-themed content elsewhere. Oh, that's Elton John, right? I think it was being Disney. But you can't get your lesbian and goth-themed literature all in one place anywhere but here at LGN. Lesbian Goth Network. We put on dark clothes and we scissor. We scissor and we put on dark clothes. We put on dark clothes and we scissor. And then we listen to soul music. That's the theme song of the Lesbian Goth Network. Don't use needles. And don't get profanity word. It's a good way to avoid being a seamstress. But one thing you will avoid is being a seamstress if you don't use needles. If you want to be a seamstress, you're going to have to resign yourself to the fact that you're going to start using some needles. You're going to need to enter into some clean needle exchange programs. Ma'am, we don't collect these kind of needles. It's dirty. I've used it to sew 40 or 50 pieces of clothing already. It's filthy. I want a new one, please. You say you exchange needles here. Yeah, we're talking about like intravenous needles. This intravenously threads that goes through the fabrics. That's not called intravenous, ma'am. It means going into your vein. This goes to the vein of the fabric. It's the same thing. Seamstress at a needle exchange program. I titled that vignette, Seamstress at a Needle Exchange Program. Does anyone agree that one cathartic event can completely change a person's unconscious behavior, healing years and years of trauma in one moment? No, but I believe that there can be clear turning points. I think there can be deciding moments. There can be straws breaking camel's backs. Hubs just got home and he doesn't understand why I like to listen to the talking guy on my phone. Have fun, everyone. Goodbye, Hubs. Goodbye, Joey Joe Shabadoo. Goodbye, Joey Joe Shabadoo's Hubs, and have a pleasant evening, everyone. That's why Joey Joe Shabadoo's husband, because I say cool stuff like that. Super cool stuff. Like, I don't know, I must have scored like at least a 6 on the cool scale, 1 to 10, which is pretty cool. Consider him an F average student in coolness. She likes to see underachievers achieve. That's why she likes to see underachievers do slightly better than their poor to mediocre performance is normal. Pity? Planet, I would sport worm earrings. But would you spurt worm earrings? If I were to puncture you with a needle or a lance of some sort, would you spurt worm earrings? Is that how many worm earrings you can start? Worm earrings is difficult to say. Let's see. You can market them in multiple ways. Compost ecology, chicken feed, jewelry, shoelaces. You can't use them as shoelaces. I need to quit spending so much money on worms and let them multiply. I spent $35 on worms one time. How much have you spent on mealworms? In contrast, lady, huh? Little lady, huh? How much? A lot. Like at least that much. Yeah, I can't release having a party. Let's see. I think it depends on a person's genetics, and in that way, it defaults to having more than just the event as a factor. Well, Yeah, of course it is a typology Q A. Do you have any actual typology questions? I'd be happy to answer them. Are you having a party, Kimberly? I don't know if she is or not. Probably not. They could fit in my air holes. Worms? Nope, wrong stream. Put your worm earrings in and then toss yourself into the water and wait for the fish to bite. Now, that's a good suggestion, Euro Lamb. I like that one. It's self-fishing. A little bit of bubblegum and worm and bam. No, frowny face. Shoelaces. Painted horse, lol, right. CJ Smothers. Just don't double knot the worm laces. Correct. You need to give them room to squirm. Oh wait, is that a green screen? Yeah, this is a green screen. This is not actually my house behind me. I've got this projected on a green screen. It's pretty good, huh? It's like that's not real sky. Those aren't real bushes. This isn't a real pond. All these things are illusory green screen objects. Pretty good, huh? Pretty good. This is my highest budget of all time live stream. You don't like Myers-Briggs tests? I love them. They're pretty good. It's a little sour cream. They're all right. How can FI and FE be confused as one another? Well, because it's not that they're confused with one another. It's that an FE conscious person will conclude that the FI they're feeling must be caused by the outside, because that's how they understand feelings in general. Feelings are things that are affected in others, or impacted in others and impacted by others. They have that frame of reference. I'm a rapper, lesbian, goth network. It's a new subsidiary of WGN, Chicago's channel. Do you like an Enneagram test? I don't think that needs to be tested, really. I don't think you need to test it. You just need to understand the concept of an Enneagram and determine which one you are. It's not like cognitive functions, which are it's a lot more complex to self-evaluate. It's pretty straightforward self-evaluating your Enneagram type, I think. So I don't think there's any need for a bunch of tests. It's just as simple as get the gist of it, determine what you think is the easiest one, which seems most obviously you, and then put that first in your try type. Let's see here. FI and FE are both values of a sort. Look, all functions. Here's what makes it tricky to talk about functions and their values. Every function will be an expression of a value or values that are implicit to that function. So, for example, the values implicit to the function of extroverted intuition or novelty, one of them. We can talk about other values that sort of link as concepts to the idea of extroverted intuition. Those are values of the function. But then there is how you value the function in your stack. So where that function lands in your stack is going to very much depend on how you value that value. So I might countervalue novelty, for example. And that might be linked to my extroverted intuition, but it's going to be linked to where it is in the stack, not to extroverted intuition itself. See what I'm saying? So in that regard, the word value is tricky to use. There's a couple of layers of value due to the fact that the slot location tells you about your relationship with the function as a function. So if I say the tool function has an instrumental value, the reason it's instrumental value is because I use it instrumentally. It's definitionally so. The reason that the program function has an implicit value is because it is my implicit value underlying everything else. That's like saying you can't add with math. You can't type with functions. You can't type with functions accurately. What do you say to that? It's exactly like saying you can't add with math. It makes no sense at all. You can't type people without functions. Functions are what type is a rough estimation of, or a rough representation of. So, Eric's childhood poshy pad in the jungle of wild birds. It's funny, Kim. An FI type can be highly concerned with others in a way that can mimic FE, right? Well, it depends what you think FE is. It doesn't mimic FE at all. It's just the way that people understand what FE is. People think that FE is some sort of caring about other people, harmony featured thing. It's not. It's about individuals' motivations other than your own. And FI is about your own motivations. So it's ultimately about, they're both about motivations, but my motivations usually are, my own true motivations are usually consistent with what's sort of stereotypically thought of as the motivations of FE, right? So it's like, it's not like my true motivations are less, don't care about other people, because it's also the case that people who have a lot of FI and understand their own motivations as powerful, implicit attachment issues, like, you know, like how much I'm attached to something, not an issue, but an issue of attachment, like a matter of attachment, where how much I'm attached to something. I have a lot of FI about my family, you know, my parents and stuff. And if there's decisions to be made about that kind of stuff, sometimes I don't even want it. I'm not interested in having a conversation about it. I don't want to establish that I'm right. I don't care. I want my way, and that's it. And it's because it's very important to me, and I don't want anybody else interfering with what's that important to me. And so in that regard, I know what it's like to choose to be FI in one's calculus about something. It means not caring whether you're right or not, expecting to get your way no matter what, whether you're right or not, doesn't matter, because you want what you want. And that's something I hadn't experienced a lot before, except for this issue, certain issues about my parents, you know, where it has to be done properly, and that's it. So they rely on his ideas about interaction styles and whatnot. Right. So if, and the thing, of course, is what you should ask him instead of you can detect a lot of TE and no NE on him is, so what do you check your interaction styles against? You know, how do you check those against something other than that to confirm that you're not just building a castle out of dust floating around in the sky? Do you have no metric to check it against? Is it just consistent within itself, provided you accept everything that he says as it is, and you have no way of testing his modality of understanding things? Well, then it's not worth a pot to piss in, right? It's not worth as much as somebody else's pot that they've pissed in for a long time. It's just not even worth the piss within the pot. Not even worth the small urea residue left behind after that piss is dried. I mean, you don't even need to speak about reliable sources, because you have multiple ways of cross-checking something. So you can cross-check it against other understandings or consensus understandings, or you can look at you do sort of a meta-analysis where you look at a spread of different definitions and find commonalities within them all, and say, where does it deviate from and where does it not deviate from those commonalities? You could check it against its own internal logic, that is to say, does this make sense? Have these terms been adequately defined? Has he established what he needs to establish? Has he met his burden to affirm? Which is a very well-established and clearly understood thing. What is the burden to affirm? He needs to substantiate all the claims he makes. He needs to define all the terms in ways that have them defined so that they do the things they're supposed to do in a system that he's trying to model. But he's not done any of that intellectual work because he doesn't have any extroverted intuition. So, I mean, he's got a little bit, but it's weak. So he doesn't know how to do it. And as a consequence, he just sort of, I'm not looking over there. I will not check. I will not check to see if this makes any sense. I will not think about it any further. I refuse to. You're either with me or against me. You're on my team. You do it my way, and that's the right way, or you're completely wrong. We don't think about it. We don't look over there. We do not look over there. We must not actually think about this. That's his style, you know. I'm talking about C.S. Joseph. That's why he takes the approach he does, you know, where he says, like, he said on his live stream that you can't type people using cognitive functions, which is, of course, like saying you can't do math using addition, or, you know, yes, you can, or it's more like you can't add things up using math. Yeah, You kind of have to. Yeah, he says that. He said you can't type people in car. That's what this guy said anyway. He just went on. He was trying to come in here and troll as usual. It was some fake profile that he's got, right? And then, as usual, he immediately gets called out and be like, "Hi, C.S. Joseph," or whoever you are, C.S. Joseph's boy, whatever you are. And then he comes back to somebody else, and everyone goes, "It's you again. You're not fooling anybody." Yeah, it probably is. I don't know who else would be that interested to be that persistent in doing it. You know, I mean, to say you use a function is to misuse the word function right away. You attend via one or another channel. There are 8 possible channels in the sense that we've taxonomied the entirety of human attention into 8 channels. And we chose those 8 particular channels and the definitional qualities of those because of the way that they are implicitly either exclusive of each other, complementary of each other, proportional to, or inversely proportional, yada, yada. Okay, so those are just to lay the groundwork a bit. Is it the case that you will attend via all 8 functions? Yes, you will. Is it the case that you will willfully or intentionally attend via those functions or understand what it means to do so exactly? No. And the extent to which you understand what it means to willfully and intentionally attend to something really means the extent to which you understand the full scope of attentional potentialities within that attentional channel. So it matters on how much attention you give via a given channel. Some channels, and probably all attention, requires more than one attentional manner to some extent, happening concurrently or consecutively in quick succession, if you think about it as a mechanics, you know. So you got to understand that it's true that even though I have polar FI, which means it's my blind spot to think about my own feelings, it doesn't mean I don't experience my own feelings. It does mean that I'm not good at all at willfully or intentionally accessing and referencing my own feelings to know what kind of decisions to make or what meanings to make or to understand myself better or anything else, really. It's just a source of confusion. It's a vortex of and so that's what makes it my polar, is because I spend as little time as I can attentionally directing willful, intentional attention towards my own feelings. And it's implicit to that, then, that I must be calculating the deliberative calculi necessary in life via the alternative deliberative calculus, namely TI, which is the logical calculus. I'm speaking a foreign language, TE DOMs right now. I'm trying to give an adequate explanation. The answer is yes, you attend, as does everybody, in all 8 ways. To have a configuration means you're going to spend a majority of your time attentionally, willfully, in one channel to the exclusion of others, because you have a finite number of hours of attention to give, wakeful attention to give, on any given day. It's not infinite. If you have SI trickster, what's SI trickster? I don't know what that means. But if it means whatever it means, I don't polar. Oh, okay, all right. Do you think you'd be trained? You wouldn't want to train it. You can develop your relationship with that attentional manner when it compels itself upon you, as it will sometimes. I've got FI polar. So I still have feelings, but I just don't know what they mean exactly. Concurrently, or similarly, you have that relationship with your own past experience. If you really do have SI polar, which I would not trust C.S. Joseph's conclusions about that at all, okay? But if you really do have SI polar, it means you're an ENTJ or an ENFJ. It means you have a very weak relationship with your own past and your own experience, your own memories. If I ask you to give me specific examples of things that have happened to you in the past, you won't be able to do it. And if I were able to talk to you, I could tell you in a second if you're SI polar, because it's one of the easiest things to pick up on. But you may or may not actually have that. What I just described is a test you can do to find out if you have it. Really, ask yourself, if let's say you have a girlfriend, I say, do you ever have any conflicts with your girlfriend? And you go, yes, yeah, we fight sometimes. And I go, okay, well, give me some examples of some recent fights you've had and what they've been about. And you struggle to come up with examples, then you're starting to look like maybe it is SI polar. Okay. So you got to realize that first of all, you might not even have SI polar, but even if you do, can it be trained? You wouldn't want to train it. What you want to do is develop a more peaceful relationship with it, such that you are aware of your deficit and you're aware of how your deficit may leave you blind to certain pitfalls and or opportunities, and try to allow it to be when it most appropriately rises up and insists that it be. Allow yourself to be nostalgic sometimes, would be an example of an SI polar person coming to terms with their SI. Allow yourself to sometimes listen to your body when it says, I could really use a bath, or it would be really relaxing, or I'd like to lie down and rest for a bit, or relax my muscles. Try to just actually pay attention to your body feelings sometimes. But that's as far as you're going to get with it. It means it would be useful to train it, because you got to remember you already have your most refined tools at your disposal. So you'd always be choosing a less refined tool, and you already have ample workarounds for your polar. The one that you can kind of train is your third slot, and to a certain extent your sixth slot. Those are the ones that can be developed over time, but I don't know how much you can willfully train them, or it just naturally happens as you do the metacognitive work and attend to the idea of, I'd like to be better at it. For me, it's easy to explain it because my third and my sixth are interface functions, and they both are easy to explain how it means to be better at them, Other functions are a little more difficult to explain what it means to be better at them. But yeah, you can develop in your third and sixth, and you naturally will if you're attending to it. Does each function have a spectrum of accessibility, i.e. like IQ, meaning some are better at accessing elements of a function? Do you have any theories on how mental illness affects function access? Well, I think that there's a life development capacity angle to that. So I think anybody has the ability to fundamentally improve their function IQ simply by thinking about how their existent expression of being in the status quo in your day-to-day going about life, by paying attention in the moment to how their cognitive processes are unfolding before them, and relate it back to the model. Just by doing that, in my opinion, you become more effective in each of your functions. And that's probably the best and only way to become more effective in your functions. Because the only way that you render them from simply reflexes and instances of self-discipline against reflexes, and the only way you render them from that into functions at all is to develop the lexicon and have the rhetorical tool at your disposal. That's what it means. I mean, having the rhetorical tool and the tool being a tool, the rhetoric and the tool are indistinguishable from each other, if you know what I mean. Let's see. I think there's a really good question on here. I want to make sure I get to it. If C.S. Joseph smokes 3 pulls each night for 5 cents per pull, at the end of each week, how much money would C.S. Joseph make, and how many pulls would he have smoked? Let's see. I'm going to say, well, you didn't tell me. Oh, I see. At the end of each week. So 7 nights. And we're looking at 21 pulls at 5 cents a piece. I'm going to say, let's see, that's going to be 7 times 21. Wait, no, hold on. 5 cents a pull, 15 cents a night for 7 nights. That's going to be, my math is so shitty. 15 cents a night for 7 nights is 70 cents plus 35. That's $1.05. Is it $1.05? Is it $1.05? Did I get it right? Okay. Well, so math is I'm starting to sort of lose my math sense. It requires a lot of keeping track of shit in your head. My brain is full of bong resin. Like it's not sharp and spry like you youngsters. Okay, it gets clogged up with bong resin. I'm not picking up on your mannerisms. We probably just independently evolved those mannerisms, I would suspect, both being NE-DOMs. I would hope I don't pick up mannerisms that quickly. I tend to be aware of that as well, but I haven't been thinking about it with you, Bigger. It's possible. I doubt it. No, Hero Lamb. Listen, you're forgetting something. It's a combination of if you smoke weed and how nice your backdrop looks. My backdrop's not A++, but you know it's at least a B+. You know, it's at least a B+, I'd say. Yes, it's important to keep the conditional there, Jeeves. You're right. As per the terms of the question, it is the case that on any given week, C.S. Joseph would smoke 21 poles for an earnings of $1.05. And I think he'd pay 43 cents in taxes on that, because when you're smoking pole for yourself, you're smoking pole for the government. Tobacco enhances memory, I heard. Well, I don't know. I think what they were saying is tobacco enhances Henry. You misheard them, Joseph Grissom. Because there's one dude, Henry, he has a strange disorder that smoking tobacco causes his penis to grow. It enlarges his penis. And so he's been smoking 6 packs a day since he was 7 years old. Just enormous. Okay. He's simulated intuition. Who is simulated? Oh, do you think C.S. Joseph has simulated intuition? He has simulated extroverted intuition. The only reason I'm listening to you is because of your nice backdrop. Ass pipe. Good point. Thank you, Hero Lamb. I appreciate it. Keep that in mind in the future. Yeah, this is a painting by Raul Diego. It's just a large painting I have behind me by Raul Diego. Hey, Hughie Rexon. Hughie Rexon. Hey, now. Is that some sort of sexual innuendo in your name? I think so. I don't really think your name is Hugh G. Erection. Hugh G. Erection. I'm not buying it. I think maybe you made that up. And I'm beginning to doubt Planet Ketchup's actually named Planet Ketchup. Because sometimes she calls herself Becky, and I'm not sure if her Planet is her middle name, or Becky's her middle name, or what, but if you calculate his workload monthly at 84, that's 84 poles smoked with an income of $4.20. But remember, he had a habit every other week of smoking twice as many poles on Sundays and getting paid time and a half for each pole smoked, past the initial 3. So you haven't factored all that in yet. It would be. I mean, it would be that. You know, we're talking conditionally here, as per the terms of the problem. It's a hypothetical. It's not an actual news report. If you've mistaken this for a news report in the business section of the paper about whether or not you should invest in C.S. Joseph's pole smoking business, well, you've misinterpreted this. This is just a hypothetical math problem, okay? This is not a business report. I am not recommending you buy stock in Pole Smokers International, okay? C.S. Joseph's hypothetical corporate enterprise. I would rather someone be a raging asshole than just play bullshit shitty FE. It's almost passive aggressive. Yes, Pulse. Howdy do. Thank you for correcting me on the name of the corporation. CS Postal Corporation is Indeed. International #1 purveyor of pole smoking. I don't look down on NI users. I tend to have a little bit of beef with NI tool users. I like NI DOMs. You know, and I like plenty of NI tool users too. I just ENTJs who walk around dressed in a bunch of TI clothes make me just desperate to point out the fact that they are naked. You know, as a little kid, even I always thought I want to be that one who says the emperor has no clothes. I want to be the one who calls out that bullshit. You know, I want to be the one who figures out what everybody else is not seeing. I always wanted to be that. You know, it just shows you. It's like ENTP is gonna love that story. Is gonna just want to be that guy who's outsmarts everybody. And yeah, look at me. I'm the clever one who figured it out. Of course, life doesn't really turn out like that, but. You know, how do you decide if a function is tool or down? Well, usually I look for polar. Certain polars are easy to identify, and that'll tell you the tool. Or I will look for the hidden agenda, or figure out the fourth slot seeking, or fifth slot. I mean, sometimes it's easy to tell. It depends. It depends what I'm trying to type. I take different approaches based on how easy it is for me to find a given thing to start out with. Certain things will be easy to identify. I've got certain things in certain slots that I've got a couple of definitive tests that I cross-check against each other, and then I go, okay, that's this, and therefore not that. But mostly it's a process of what's it called? Process of elimination. But his income is now public knowledge. Why is it? Oh, you mean his pole smoking income? Now he's going to be worried about getting audited. Even at that very low rate, he actually ended up making almost $250,000 last year. So I guess in later months he really increased his volume. Just again, hypothetically, part of the math problem. We're not really. It's not a business report. Again, I'm not advocating you buy stock in CES polls. Pole Smoking International Enterprise. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna catch up your challenge. I'm gonna meet that challenge tomorrow. FOSology, TI seeking versus TE seeking. What's the difference? TI seeking is not very bright, really. It's not dumb. It's like of the intuitives. For me, anyway, from my perspective, the TI seekers, which are ENFJ and ESFJ, are fun and people you need to explain things to slowly, But that's not a problem with them. That's not a shortcoming of them. They have kind of like the right relationship with a TI tool user or a TI DOM, which is they don't try to do battle with us on that playing field. They are receptive to some guidance. ESFJ much more receptive than ENFJ. TE seeking, they are not receptive to TI, and just as TI seekers are not receptive to TE, and that's easier to spot. You try to give a TE seeker TI advice, they are not going to be receptive to it because they've already using the right judgment function for that, which is FI. Okay, I don't need you to tell me here. Use the wrong deliberation function for this INFP. No, I don't want to use your stupid TI. I'm already using my very moist and damp FI. And so what I really need to do is get some TE from you, please. They reach some far out conclusions. Yeah, baby. Your conclusions are far out. What's right, logically consistent versus how to teach objectives? Foe. Don't call me foe, okay? I told you that. That's short for which is the word they scream in golf. How long did it take before you felt like you had a handle on the system and typing people? I would say, as of maybe 4, 5, 6 months ago, I probably had it all down at that point, pretty much. I still make occasional insights into other ways of saying things, maybe that are expressive, but the basic gist of the mechanics of it, which comprises really a meta mechanics of the whole system that says, okay, what are we modeling here? We're modeling agents in a system, right? Agents in an environment, agents taking action upon objects in an environment. The same thing that language models, and the same thing that the internet models. It's agents taking action in an environment upon objects. So when you ask that question, you're an agent taking action, that is a metaphysical action, word action, in an environment, let's say this live stream group here thing, and you are achieving an impact of getting me to put information at you that you're presumably seeking. You're seeking information, I'm getting it. You're getting it, I'm putting it. So in that regard, we need to understand, well, how is it that as agents occupying various ecosystems, because right now we're both occupying this ecosystem, but we're also both occupying the Earth, right? Unless you're in outer space someplace. So if we want to understand what a cognitive function system is, we have to understand what it is we're modeling. We're modeling in a way that explains how agents interact with objects, which include other agents, in an ecosystem or in a set of ecosystems. And we're trying to understand that for the ecosystem of ecosystems, that is to say, human experience as a whole, but constraining it by saying we're talking about conscious or willful attention and other kinds of attention. Yeah, it's a good idea, Kim. I haven't heard from her for quite a while. Let me take a break here. I'm going to go check in there, check on Jane, see how she's doing. Hey, Mom! Hey, Mom! Okay, well, she's fine. She's just in the bathroom there, but she's ready to go to bed. So I'm going to wrap this up and see her off to bed. It was a fun live stream. I enjoyed it, and I would like to be on longer, but obviously I got to take care of Mom, and she's ready for me to get her into bed, so I'm going to go do that. And thank you for Kimberly for reminding me about that. And I will be back with another live stream soon enough that answers more of these questions. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to keep cheese.